The 8th largest country in the world, the country furthest south on the planet, the Andes, the 2nd longest river in the world. We're going to take you into Argentina today with one of the great outfitters in the country so you have a better idea of what this trip is all about and how you can put it together for Golden Dorado and Patagonia this year. This is the Wet Fly Swing podcast where I show you the best places to travel to for fly fishing, how to find the best resources and tools to prepare for that big trip, and what you can do to give back to the fish species we all love. Hey, I'm Dave, host of the Wet Fly Swing podcast. I've been fly fishing since I was a little kid. I grew up around a little fly shop and have created one of the largest fly fishing podcasts in this country. I've also interviewed more of the greatest fly anglers than just about anyone out there. Gustavo from setflyfishing.com is here to take us deep into Argentina and around the country. You're going to find out what Golden Dorado is all about and how they are like a mix between a barracuda and a shark. You're going to find out how to catch these massive fish on the surface, why the country and this area is such a mecca for outdoor attractions on top of the fishing, bird watching, giant rivers, you name it. Argentina has it all. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to be talking about an area that is similar to the Everglades in habitat, but twice as big, and we're going to be exploring this country from the fly fishing, the cultural, the natural beauty. We're covering it all today. I'm excited to share this one, so let's get into it. Here he is, Gustavo from setflyfishing.com. How you doing, Gustavo?
Doing great, Dave. Good to be with you and the audience. Well, let's talk a little bit about Argentina, fly fishing, trout, dorado, and Patagonia.
Yeah, let's do it. I think that that's what we're going to do today is talk about some high-level stuff, and we'll dig into maybe on some of the species a little bit. But, you know, we were doing an event with Jerry and Matt at the Driftless Angler, and they mentioned you guys, and it's been a place I haven't been down there yet, but it's definitely on the bucket list. I think most people listening probably would love to fish Argentina, Patagonia. So hopefully today we can let them know a little more about what you guys have to offer and what the country is like. So maybe let's bring it back real quick like we always do on fly fishing, you know, before we jump into all the guiding and the lodges and stuff you have there. You know, how'd you get into fly fishing and what's your first memory?
Well, yeah, I started very early on fly fishing, really not because of my father was into fishing. I was born and raised on a town on the Atlantic coast, but we used to come for vacations to the Northern Patagonia region. And I got magnet to the fly fishing early on when I was only 8 years old. I saw people practicing the field. I was back then practicing fly fishing in Argentina was not popular at all. And I was, since right off the bat, I knew that was my thing in life, right? I mean,
yeah.
I guess I started fly fishing itself. My father helped me finding somebody that was into it, and I started fly fishing when I was 10, and I think I was 11. I was tying my own flies. I think I was 14, and I knew I was going to run my life around this.
Wow.
Didn't have a clue it was going to look like it is today, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But I never was a part of the idea of making my life around the fly fishing and being on the water near the rivers, and that's
awesome.
how everything started.
So basically, since day one, you've pretty much had this goal to be in fly fishing, to have, you know, a company in it, and you didn't really know, you know, kind of what it was. Did you evolve into where you're at? Did you try a bunch of different things in, you know, kind of fly fishing before you found kind of the set fly fishing came to be?
Well, it was really a long, organic, natural process, I would like to describe, right? I mean, like always related to my passion of fly fishing, but then, you know, I learned that I was super passionate about showing Argentina culture and our traditions to people from around the world, right? I mean, like, I really fell in love with that, right? Meeting people from all different backgrounds, people that you'll never meet otherwise. And I think I enjoy that part that much right now, as much as being fishing itself, right? I mean, so.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's same for me. I think that the fishing, you know, we all love it. You know, that's kind of what brings us all together. But, you know, for me, the travel is awesome, you know, and meeting, you know, new people and new places. And like you said, cultures, right? Traveling to a new area and kind of discovering something new. Well, now, people coming in to fish with you guys, is this something where it's people from all around the world, or do you get more folks from the U.S., or how does that look on your clientele?
Well, I would say probably around 85 to 90% of our guests come from North America, a majority from the United States, and a good bunch of Canadians as well. And then we get people from all around the world, right? Like all the way to Japan or Australia, Europeans, but really the core of our guests come from North America.
Yeah, that's right. And what is, maybe you can describe just high level on Argentina? It's such a, a big country compared to a lot of the other. I mean, I guess when you look at South America, I mean, you've got Brazil, and then I think Argentina is kind of the next biggest country. Is that true? And does it feel like it's a big country? I mean, as far as what you guys do, because you kind of cover all over the country, right?
No, yeah, absolutely. When I start talking to the country with people that have never been, that's one of the first things that I describe to start with, right? I mean, Argentina is the eighth largest country in the world and the second one in South America after Brazil. The first note comparison I want to always put to people in the United States is Argentina, north to south, is as long as the United States from east to west coast.
Oh, wow. See, that's a good fun fact. That's amazing.
Well, and that brings along, we cover so extended latitudes. So we go from tropical jungle environment to Antarctic, right? I mean,
yeah.
and even the continental, we have the most southern continental town in the whole world, right? I mean, like in Tierra del Fuego and the continental part also in Rio Gallegos, right? I mean, so how far south we go, right? I mean, so yeah.
Right. So you're the eighth largest country in the world, and you're the furthest south as far as countries, or I guess countries or continents, right, in the world. Nobody's further south than you guys.
Yeah, exactly. That's correct. And that brings along a huge game of sceneries and ecosystems and weather patterns in the same time of the year, right? We can go from really warm to ice and snow in the same time of the year just by traveling, right? I mean, that's how. Then you bring along on the west side of the country, all the extension north to south is the Andes range, right? I mean, so the altitude effect, it creates another variable to the weather patterns, and and so the scenery, right?
Yeah, that's it. I mean, that's why it's such a place, because it's got all this that you're talking about. It's kind of like all the extremes in a good way. And then you add the fishing, which is pretty spectacular, right? You have, I mean, Golden Dorado is the species you know a lot of people hear about. Probably most people haven't fished for them, but you have them. You have trout. Maybe talk about that around the country. What are the species that people have an opportunity if they come down and fish with you guys or down in Argentina?
Well, Argentina is famous, has been always for the trout fishing. The trouts itself have been introduced to the country starting in 1904, right? Anywhere in the southern hemisphere, there are not native salmonids, right? I mean, anywhere in the world, right? Salmonids are all species that are north of the equator, right?
Yeah.
So they were introduced back in 1904. It was a second row of introduction in the 1840s. But since there, everything is remained wild, and they have thrived on the environment. They found so much food, an ideal environment just to take over, right? I mean, anywhere in Patagonia, Patagonia is a very extended, region of the country. There are no stocking programs, right? They're all wild populations on all these river systems that we fish, right? I mean, and then really the national fish of Argentina is what most people know as Golden Dorado, right?
Yeah.
These Golden Dorados are endemic and only native from a little portion of South America. There are different species of Dorado, but the largest one that the people target and most people see on images, it is only in Argentina, Uruguay, Brazil, Paraguay, and Bolivia. There are more Amazon or northern species that are a little bit smaller, but that's a cool species.
That's it. So Golden Dorado, and is it rainbow trout? Is that mostly the species of trout, or are there browns too?
Yeah, no, they're rainbows, browns, brook trout. There are even langlong salmon in some of the areas of Northern Patagonia. Originally, they were introduced a bunch of species, and these are the ones that stick through the years. Then we have a native fish that is called the Perca, and Perca is it's a bass family species.
Huh? How do you spell that?
Perca, Perca.
Oh yeah, Perca. Gotcha.
Yes, and the Perca is a bass family species, native from South America, as in Argentina and Chile, in Patagonia. and it looks for people understanding as a mix between a smallmouth and a walleye, right? I mean, it has a similar. There is a smallmouth and a large species as the bass do, and they eat the fly, and they're fun to catch as well.
Right, that's really cool. Yeah, I see them now. They've got a big dorsal fin, a big top
Yeah,
dorsal.
dorsal fin with a spiny that will cut your hands.
Oh wow! Do they call them a snakehead? Is it a Perca snakehead, or is that different? Maybe that's a different fish.
No, they're not snakehead. They're three species of percas: the smallmouth, the largemouth, and the spiny perca we call the smallest one that it has a dorsal fin as long as the whole body and it's really spiny. That's how it's called, the spiny perca.
Yeah. Wow. So those are the native species, and then all the trout species are there. You don't stock. There's no hatchery program. Those are all just wild fish now that have been reproducing.
Yeah, exactly. No, there are biological research centers that in some areas what they do is they do some artificial spawning on the wild genetics of the breeders just to take care of spreading into a lagoon that is not connected to a main river system or stuff like that. And
Yeah.
there are zero stocking programs. I haven't been, right? I mean, that's how it's been always.
Gotcha. Okay. And what is when you look at Argentina, maybe you can break it down as far as the regions, where you guys are at, where you fish, your areas, and then talk about that a little bit. Then we'll talk about Patagonia in a little more detail.
Well, first, I would like to explain Argentina. We talk about how big it is, right? I mean, think that Argentina has a little over 40 million people as total population. Half of that live in Buenos Aires metropolitan area.
Yeah.
So the remaining of the country, I mean, and then a big ring that is on the agricultural region around Buenos Aires. So 70% of the population is in Buenos Aires metropolitan area and about a 3-hour drive belt around the city of Buenos Aires. Then you encounter almost 70% of the population of the country. So that brings along a lot more of the extreme and northern and southern regions are way less populated. There are natural environments where fish and ecosystem can thrive and wildlife can thrive. And, that brings a spectacular scenario for the activities that we do, right? I mean, that's all what anglers look, right? Environment where it's few people.
Yeah. Are people fishing in around Buenos Aires, fly fishing at all? Is there any opportunity?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you can fish within the city, right? I mean, we have a cichlid species called chanchita that lives on ponds.
Sure. And do you see people fly? I mean, I ask this because I know in the U.S., you can go to places like Arizona in the middle of major cities and you can fish for carp and stuff, and people are doing it, and there's fly shops. Are you finding that in Buenos Aires too? People fishing, right? Like fly fishing?
Well, yeah, it's still, I think, not a popular sport. I will describe us less than the United States, but it's catching up. And yes, there are people they're, housed country club developments right on the edge of the big city that has bodies of waters because are in the delta where the Paraná outlets and people on the pond in front of the house, they have the opportunity to catching dorado or tararira, which is the wallfish. So there are people urban fishing.
Yeah, but you guys are basically out in those natural areas, places where there aren't 40 million people. You're kind of out in the outskirts. Maybe talk about that. So if you break it down, where are your locations, and do you have lodges? Do you have a mix of opportunities out there?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we run 3 lodges for Golden Dorado in the northeastern part of the country, in the province of Corrientes. And then we ran another 3 lodges in northern part of Patagonia, which is the southern part of the country, and in the Neuquén province, right? I mean, those are specific for trout.
Okay.
All of these scenarios are places where very, small human presence and smaller populations, and is far away from the city for sure, right? I mean, both locations, which are opposite northeastern and southwest part of the country, require a 2-hour flight from Buenos Aires to get to these areas, right? I mean, so we're talking about between 700 to 1,000 miles away from the big city, right?
Right, you're away. Yeah, gotcha. So people fly into Buenos Aires and then take another flight out to wherever where your operation is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. You get several of the major airport hubs on the United States have overnight flights that get you to Buenos Aires.
Yep.
And from there, typically people spend the night in the city and check the city, which is it's a great city, and then they get ready for next day to start with a fishing trip or traveling to the destination, right?
Right, that's it. Nice. And then what is the, so typically if somebody was calling up, I mean, is that how you do people call you up and then you walk them through a little bit on the opportunities, or are most people coming there for, is it Golden Dorado? Is that the main thing people are coming down there for?
No, well, we get people in all different, the most common probably, I guess, is like a friend of somebody that already fished with us and then to us, and they're exploring, breaking new into the country. So just as the conversation we're having, they're first getting familiar where the geography is, what the opportunities are, and we have a lot of people that come on multiple trips, right? I mean, once our guest comes once, they tend to come and explore another of our destinations, or maybe they come first because they're triggered for that Golden Dorado, that really unique species, but then afterwards they want to see Patagonia and they come to trout fishing in Patagonia, or the other way around, right?
Yeah.
But it becomes, instead of a bucket list once in a lifetime trip, it's a trip that the people tends to come back, right? We have a high range of people that return every year or every year, right?
Yeah. What as far as timing, when is the best time? I mean, right now down there it's winter time, but what do you tell people, what's your range of periods where you can hit it?
Well, yeah, for Golden Dorado, we can fish almost year round. The core of the season for the main or the best program we offer, which is a combination of two of our lodges. It is in shoulder season, our spring and our fall. So opposite than you, but still spring and fall. And then, and it varies between the lodges, even when they're close to each other. Everyone has something unique in a different time of the year. But spring and fall is where we fish the best for Dorado. But we can, in certain locations, or combining them, all the destinations, we can fish Dorado year round.
Okay.
For trout fishing, is opposite. That if you will think to your west and Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, it will be like the opposite here, right? I mean, our season starts November 1st. In Patagonia, the season shuts down. So in general, there are specific areas that remain open or open early, but in general, open November 1st and goes all the way through the end of May. So it's a 7-month season that starts in the middle of the spring and goes through all the summer until the late part of the fall.
Right. That's it. That's why it's so perfect, is that people can head out when it's starting to get cold and wintry here. You can head down there and get the summertime and get the perfect. That's probably why it works so well, right? One of the reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a perfect winter getaway where you can be, wet wading on a mountain stream while it's freezing and snowing at home, right?
Right. And is it, now that it's, here, it's like 100 degrees around in some places. Is it pretty cold? Or where are you physically? Where's your, location? Where are you at this time of year? It's kind of July, August.
Yeah, exactly. Well, my hometown is where I'm right now. It's San Martin de los Andes. We're near from one of our lodges. I will have our offices and headquarters. And we're at about latitude 40. So we're quite north, right? It will be equivalents of like central Pennsylvania or northern California in the United States, so to say. So we have a mild winter. The elevation is not super high near. We're around 2,000 feet of elevation. In town here, a little lower, but we have a big ski resort mountain that is twice the elevation. The base of the mountain is at 4,000 feet, and we get a lot of snow there. But in town, we get some snowfalls, but it's a mild winter, right? I mean, right now it's a sunny day. It was frost this morning, but it is probably 44 degrees right now. So
44. Yeah, it's pretty mild. And you are pretty much, are you in the kind of the northern part of Patagonia? Is that where you are right now?
Yes, exactly. It's northern part of Patagonia. Patagonia, it compounds several provinces of Argentina. It's a really southern cone of Argentina map, which is already also a triangle looking down, sort of thing.
Yeah.
We are in northern Patagonia. If I want to go to Tierra del Fuego, the southern tip of continental Argentina, I'll drive for nonstop for 25 hours to get there, right?
25 hours from where you are to get to the tip of Argentina is 25 hours.
Yeah, and that's all Patagonia itself, right? I mean, to put in people heads how big the region of Patagonia
That's
it is,
huge.
right?
Yeah, you're 25 hours. I mean, if you drove, you could drive probably halfway across the United States in 25 hours. What are the roads like down there? Are people, is that something people are doing, getting rental cars and driving around it, or the roads get a little rough, or how does that look?
Well, Patagonia still remains like one of the less populated regions in the entire world, right? I mean, so it's a little different than driving on the United States. We have major highways are paved highways, but they are one way each side, right? I mean, there are not multiple ways, type of highways that you can get anywhere in the United States. So it's a little different, right? I mean, in Patagonia, we have areas where you can drive for almost 200 miles without finding a gas station, right? And so you can travel and it's safe, but you need to sort of plan it. Our northern part of Patagonia, it's a little, I like to describe the milder Patagonia in terms of it is a little easier in weather than the south part of Patagonia. It has a little bit more developed and more friendly for tourists, right? I mean, like in terms of what's available, right?
Want to experience a magic trick? On a certain river at a certain time of day, time slows down. Where is this place? Located in the heart of Montana is a place where people go to slow things down, to float down a historic river, and to watch the birds dance across the sky. Watch animals explore the open land, and of course, to fish. If you're looking to slow things down, Helena, Montana is waiting for you. Visit Helena, Montana right now. You can head over to helenamt.com to get a change of pace this year. Imagine your perfect cast in the pristine waters of Bristol Bay, the heart of the Alaskan wilderness. Togiak Lodge sits in this unique paradise, offering unmatched fishing amidst breathtaking landscapes. Envision yourself right now amidst nature's best, with every fish narrating its own epic tale. You can visit togiaklodge.com right now. That's Togiak, Togiak. Your story woven into the fabric of Bristol Bay, where every cast is a memory, every fish is unforgettable. It sounds like everything's doable, and that's the great thing about it, is that it's this different, it's this different experience, and you kind of have, it sounds like all sorts of, everything's covered here. Well, what would you start if we were coming in and talking to you right now saying, we wanted to put a trip together down there? Where do you start? If I was asking you that question, where do I begin? Because it seems like I would want to do it all. I'd want to go down to the tip of Patagonia, or go down to Patagonia. I'd want to try to chase all species. Is it doable? And do you have to have more than, is a week enough? Like, is that typically what people do? Where do you start somebody who's new to you?
No, it's here. Argentina is so extended. Patagonia itself is so extended. Really, I've always said to people, you want to have one really good experience. If you have just 1 week, you got to choose a destination and really have a feel and be settled in one place. And you will see a big variety of things. You can here in Northern Patagonia, you can target almost every one of the available species by staying in one same location. So you really can have a vibe, not only of the different sceneries, the different fisheries, but also have a vibe for the cultural, immersion, the people, and make it not just a really cool, unique fishing trip, but a whole experience, right?
Yeah.
That's what we try to do with our trip, the way we plan it, to make it a whole experience, right? I mean, so if you have 1 week, it's one of our programs. For a week stay, it will get you a really good first experience. Our first choice for a typical first time guest, it will be like focus on Spring Creek Lodge. It's only 20 minutes from Chapelco Airport, where you fly commercially from Buenos Aires, so very easy to get to. But a lot of people, what they do is, they add another week or 3-4 days, and just to tour and discover, different part of the country. And and we organize that too, right? I mean, so we help people to see something else they want to see on the country, right? But everybody leaves with the idea that they haven't seen all what they want to see, but
No.
that's because of the nature of the country, right? I mean,
yeah, you can't do it all. You can't do it all
and
in
that's why
a week or even a month.
well, exactly, and the fact that is some of the regions in Argentina, the flight connectivity is everything through Buenos Aires, right? I mean, so if you want to go to any other place in the country, you got to fly back to Buenos Aires. There are very limited flight connections to go from town to town.
Right. It's kind of similar to, I mean, I'm sure it's different in a lot of ways, but we've been doing a lot on Alaska. You know, Alaska has, you know, you have to go through Anchorage. We just talked to the Mossie's fly shop up there, and it's like everybody goes through Anchorage, whether you're going, you know, driving or if you're flying out somewhere else. Same with this. Everybody flies into Buenos Aires, and then from there you either hop on the road or you fly out to another location. That's pretty much how it works, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right, right? But that when you're trying to combine two very different destinations of a country, you know, it can take quite a bit of travel or connecting a couple of.
And that makes sense. I mean, it would be the same thing if you were, like, we're heading up to do a muskie trip, you know, later this year. And, you know, we're not going to be doing muskie and then transferring over and doing a trout trip at the same thing, right? We're hitting it one for, you know, a few days. We're focusing on that, and then maybe we'll come back another time. But, I mean, Golden Dorado is one that I think would be great. Why don't you talk a little bit about that? What is the Golden Dorado? We've had at least one episode where we talked Golden Dorado, but, you know, didn't go super deep. What do you tell people that are thinking about Golden Dorado? Why would they want to chase that fish? What makes it so cool?
Well, I always start with like tell people like warning with Golden Dorado, because once you try it, you're gonna do it multiple times, right? It's an addictive species. It's one of a kind species, right? I mean, start with that it's a freshwater fish first to get everybody understand the species. It's a freshwater fish that's geared up with a jaw power and sharp teeth that is designed to eat on their main prey, which is the sabalo. Sabalo is the bottom of the chain food on the Paraná River system in all our warm water rivers of the northern part of Argentina. This fish, it is typically 4 to 5 pounds, right? I mean, they're so imagine a dorado, even a 10-pound dorado, which is a young adult dorado, they can chew and trim in half a 5-pound fish in seconds. Wow. So a fish that is half the entire body weight, they can eat and chop in half, right? I mean, like, so just an example, right? I mean, when sometimes when you're near spawning season, they get very aggressive, and you hook into a smaller dorado, but a smaller dorado that is 5-6 pounds. It's not uncommon to get another dorado 25 pounds to come and eat on your fish, right? I mean, so you sometimes you get half of a fish, right?
No kidding.
Like, they eat each other. Yeah, I like it to describe like it's a combination of the speed up with the sharp teeth that a barracuda will have.
Yeah.
Power of the jaws that a shark will have.
Oh, wow. Barracuda and a shark mix. That sounds amazing.
That sounds scary, right?
Yeah.
Well, the way they eat the fly,
yeah,
you have your line on your hand. The way they eat the fly and what you feel, you see them coming, right? I mean, we fish 95% on floating lines. So you see the fish eating your fly, any dorado fishing you're doing. And there is like a gold lightning that will come and strike your fly. So it's a strip set. It's pretty much in many ways similar to a saltwater type of species, but it's freshwater.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is like one of a kind, right? I mean, like if you lose your strip and you lose the line when they're striking, that's it. I mean, it's a focus game.
God, that's so cool. And are you guys fishing? Is this a mix of smaller rivers, waterways, lakes? Talk about the habitat. Where are you fishing?
Yeah, well, we run these 3 different lodges. Each of them are in a complete different environment, right? I mean, like the first one, I like to start with probably what is the most attractive of the habitat and the ecosystem for Golden Dorado, where we fished. It's on the Ibera Wetlands. The Ibera Wetlands is the second largest aquifer in the entire world, right?
Wow.
Second only after the Pantanal in Brazil, filled with rainwater. It is the old ancient riverbed of the Paraná River that was pushed further northwest, so that depression got filled with rainwater that flows sometimes underground, sometimes comes on top of, but the ground, it floats on this huge aquifer, right? So it's a system that is comparable to the Everglades, but with complete fresh water, crystal clear like a trout stream. And it's so big the area that it's about twice the entire Everglades system, what's
Wow.
the Ibera Wetlands is. So it's a really large area. Most of it is protected inside a national park.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate enough to be leased by the government with access to be the only outfitter fishing on the west boundaries of the Ibera Wetlands, which is 80% of the water access to the system. And it's just us. These waters, probably people heard about the what Douglas Tompkins did in northern Argentina, and he's responsible for our national park. He bought from private, ranches donated to the government for the formation of the
Oh wow,
of
Douglas Tompkins. That's pretty interesting. Sounds like a great a great person doing that.
well, yeah, he passed a few years ago, but the whole foundation continues to. They're running on the Ibera a big project and organization is called Rewilding. They've been reintroducing some of the wildlife species into this national park ecosystem.
Parque National, the national park you mentioned. I think I see it here. What's
Yeah,
the name of it?
Ibera National Park.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah. Gotcha.
Parque Nacional Ibera. Yes,
Yep.
it will be in Spanish. Correct.
Yeah, there it is.
So it's a paradise just for wildlife, bird watching. I mean, it's one of the most diverse ecosystem in the entire country. So
Wow.
people from around the world come just to experience the wilderness of this environment, right? I mean, so we fish for Golden Dorado there, right? I mean, it's probably in within Argentina the most crystal clear environment where you fish for Golden Dorado. I mean, the water is super, super clear. That makes the fish, in general, the Dorado feed in a way they ambush for their prey because they want to eat
Mm.
such a big fish, the sabalo is. So they're hiding when they're ready to eat, right? I mean, sometimes you see them cruising around, but that's when they are in, I like to say, describe them in airplane mode, right? I mean,
Yep.
because when they're just swimming around with sabalos, they are not in an active mode. When they're ready to eat, they're going to be ambushing, they're going to be under a wheat bed or in a cat bank, and you won't see them, right? So you prospect structure, obvious and determined structure where you know they're going to be, and you see them coming for your fly, sometimes waking water, making a V like 20, 30 feet away, right? I mean,
Right.
and it's, yeah, all this crystal clear makes the Ibera an ideal environment to target this Golden Dorado on surface patterns. So we use a lot of mice and large reef flies that we have adjusted for Golden Dorado
Yep.
and T-Walks, every size of popper. So it is very cool to see this speed and very aggressive eats on top flies, right?
Gotcha. And are you out? Maybe describe that. Are you in boats out there? Maybe talk about the actual physical, what it looks like, what you're fishing out of.
Yes, when we fish for Golden Dorado in our destinations, it's all from boats, right? I
Yeah.
mean, there are specific spots in some of the fisheries that very occasionally you could get off the boat, but typically it's in most part out of a boat. Specifically in the Ibera, when we fish the Ibera wetlands, it is out of a 16-foot skiff where the guide is on the back of the boat push pulling, and there is one anchor at the time at the boat targeting, because of the nature of a very intimate, narrow areas where you're targeting these dorados, right?
Mm.
In the other fisheries we fish two at a time, similar type of boat, but just a little bit bigger. Here, because of national park regulations, our maximum engine, it could be a 40 HP outboard motor,
Yep.
and we use that to transport. But then when you are actually fishing, is push pulling.
Mm. Gotcha. And you're fishing, like you said, these are kind of like more like lakes type of waterways. You're not necessarily on a river, or I guess there are some rivers in the area.
This whole water system, it flows ultimately underwater into the Paraná River system.
Okay.
So it flows, and it flows, with good power
Yep.
in special spots, right? I mean, then there are many, many, many different lakes and lagoons and ponds, but then they're all connected by a river, a channel that look like spring creeks. They're
Right.
meander, they're circle around. Scenery-wise, probably the easiest comparison in the United States will be like you can imagine yourself in the low country in South Carolina or in Georgia and Savannah or fishing Charleston or for redfish.
Yeah, okay.
Because they're all tall grasses with all these little channels. But instead of having a flow by the tide action, here it's flowing like in a river system, right? From the upper reaches to the lower reaches, and it will drain to the Paraná River system afterwards.
Yeah. Gotcha. Wow. This is really cool. So you're out there, so you're in the boat poling, getting situated. Maybe talk about that a little bit as you're getting ready to, how do you guys find the fish and how do you get them? What's that all look like?
Yes, well, as I was telling, the nature of the way that the dorado eats, they ambush when they're ready to eat. So you go to structure where we know they target their prey, and you prospect on those structure. They're typically around where the water it's flowing, and they're ahead of the run, right? I mean, they act a little bit on the moving water, different than trout. They are always upstream from the obstacle that's creating a structure that holds the bait fish. So if there is a log or there is a speed up that is gonna because run that is gonna drop on the pool, they're gonna be in the head, right? I mean the main fish hunting for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you prospect on that structure. Sometimes if you get them in a feeding frenzy, you'll see them crashing on other fish or waiting to crash other fish. And typically that's before a storm that happens, right? I mean, when some weather changes make activity on all the other fish species and makes food available for Dorado. They get in a mode that I want to eat now. We say they get mean when the weather is bad, but they certainly are active, right? When you're Dorado fishing, you look at the forecast and you don't want to see a beautiful sunny blue sky weather. You want to see something going on, right? A front's gonna come through. It's gonna be overcast. I mean, it's gonna change the weather. Always those things make the fish to very happy and or ready to eat.
Right. Gotcha. Wow. And then you mentioned the size ranges. I mean, you see some of these fish, these photos that are these giant fish. I mean, how big have you seen some of these Dorado get?
Well, one of our locations now on the Paraná River system in the Upper Parana, it is the area that is the best region of the Paraná River system for spawning. So the largest breeders that migrate when they're younger, afterwards they stay there. And this Upper Paraná River, it is where we target what we say the largest dorados anywhere in the world. They can get up to 50 pounds.
Oh, wow.
That's how big a dorado can be. Actually, world record registered, it is 32 kilos, so that's near 70 pounds, right? I mean, that's how big they can be. But regularly you get probably a dozen fish that are every year that they're in the 50-pound range, probably a couple dozens that are over 40. Yeah, so
Gotcha. And why is this upper area, the northern part? So this is out of the park. This is out of the national park. This is more in like the river system.
Yeah, exactly. Well, Paraná River system is a really, really large river flow, right? I mean, we're talking about a river that is Mississippi size,
right?
Lower
Huge.
Mississippi size. I mean, it's an amazing ecosystem.
And it flows into Buenos Aires, right? Eventually.
Yeah, it flows into a delta that afterwards becomes the Rio de la Plata right in Buenos Aires, right?
Yeah.
So we're talking now being 700 miles north, upstream from Buenos Aires, right? So there is really, really far away. But yeah, the whole Paraná River system is the largest biomassa producer, freshwater ecosystem in the world, right?
Huh.
The way they reproduce and they generate other species, all the species living in this system it's amazing, right? So
wow.
Yeah, there is a lot of life on this river, and why the sabalo that I was making all the points as the main prey of the dorado is so important because it's that species that is eating on the bottom algae, and it's only algae and vegetables, but transform into big mass of meat, right? Because they are 5 pounds, and they are the main food for a lot of the predators, right? There are big
Gotcha.
catfish as well on the system. They're known as surubí. They can get over 100 and 120 pounds. So everything is trying to eat each other here.
Right. Is there anything dangerous about, I'm not even sure on the species, like, and just out there, like, are you worried about anything in the water when you're fishing? Is this all pretty safe?
No, there is nothing like really the only risk if you get off the boat and you're wading, you really gotta be looking at your step, which in the lower areas of the Paraná, more near to Buenos Aires, the water could be really dirty, right? So you could not see your feet. But on the upper areas where, as I was describing, where we fish, you typically could get out in a sandbar and you will see your feet. And it's important that because there are freshwater rays that can be really big.
Okay.
So they're stingrays, but they're freshwater stingrays. So you don't want to step on top of one of those.
What would happen if you stepped on one of those? You could get stung.
Yeah, you can get stung, and it's really bad. But it's visually first we fish mainly off the boats, 95% or 99%. But if you get off, it will be in a sandbar where you will be knee deep and you can see your steps, right? So you see them and you can avoid them, right? But yeah, there are also the largest piranha species called palometa.
Oh, so there are piranha in there.
Yeah, there are piranha in there, but this is the largest one. They can be up to 6-7 pounds, right? So they do not hang in big communities. They hang in groups, but in smaller groups, they're sort of shy, so it will never attack people.
They're not attacking people.
But for sure, they like to eat your fly.
Oh, so you can catch piranha too.
Oh yeah. You will catch one for fun of catching a new species. Afterwards, the guys will scream on you like, "Get the fly out of there!" They will destroy your fly, right? I mean, like your fly that is 8 inches long gets a palometa bite. Now it's 1.5 inches, right?
It's you don't want to do that. That's it.
Yeah.
So there are a number of. I mean, are there a bunch of species, or people come down there to get? I always think of, some of the people out there that are trying to get the species numbers out, accounts up, are there folks coming down there do like Jeff Currier, right? Has he been down in that area trying to, and how many fish could you catch, different species?
Yeah, you can fish a number of different species, right? Like here on the Upper Parana, you could get a piranha, right? A palometa, but it's not a target species. But we do have omnivorous species. One is the paku.
Oh yeah, paku that eats the fruit, right?
Fruits, but it's omnivorous. It will eat a mice, a rat. It will eat a lizard too. So they take a dorado streamer.
Yeah.
But then you'll target under trees when they're eating for fruits, flowers, or beans. They're falling from. So it's a really cool visual, and they're really, really one of a kind species too. It's a species that we target itself, right? I mean, like when paku fishing is in season and it's good, it's something that everybody wants to try, right? I mean, and along the paku, in the same type of area, also omnivorous species is piapita, and the piapita is also a 2 feet creature, super fast, and they jump on the air to catch bugs or even fruits from the trees. And so they're fun species. We fish them a lot on dry flies, like big trout terrestrial attractors, like a Chernobyl ant or stuff like that. They eat crickets and hoppers, and so they're fun species. It's the same or a cousin of what in Bolivia they call chatorama. In Argentina, in the Paraná River system, it's called piapita. They're a little lighter in coloration and a little variety, different species, but they're really very similar fish.
Yeah, piapita. Okay, so you could catch a few. I mean, I think if I was going to be there, it would be fun to, for sure a Golden Dorado would be great, but if you could throw in a piranha, a paku, maybe some other ones, that would be kind of cool. Although, does that kind of distract you with the Golden Dorado? Do you have to be really on it, to get one, like as far as expectations? Are people coming up there, and is there potential to get skunked? I mean, obviously there is for anything, but or is this something where you're getting multiple opportunities while you're fishing?
Well, depend on the locations, right? I mean, and also the time that you get.
What would be the best place if you wanted to just catch a Golden Dorado? You didn't have to try to go for a 50-pounder. I'm assuming that the ones when you're on the upper river for the large fish, it's going to be harder to get as many touches. But what it would be if you just said, I want to catch a Golden Dorado, where would you send us? Which area?
Well, the third one of our locations that I haven't talked yet, it is also a natural reserve. and it's also a wetland, but it's a wetland that is connected to the Paraná River system. It's just in the middle Paraná, between the towns of Goya and Esquina, and actually near where the Ibera Wetlands drain through the Corrientes River into the Paraná River system. Right there, we ranch a 2 lodge right inside the Isoro wetlands. These Isoro wetlands are a floodplain, basically, that is connected by 3-4 main branches of the Paraná that come and get into this floodplain. So they cover like several thousand acres of hundreds of thousands of acres of land that it gets into big lagoons that they go up and down on level, tag along with the different levels up and down of the Paraná. And because of the nature of how the Dorado spawn mainly in the Upper Parana, where the really big ones are that I was explaining you before.
Yeah, like up north, way up north towards Paraguay.
Right at the border with Paraguay, right?
Yep.
This wetland that I'm describing, the Isoro wetlands, are from there almost halfway, a little less than halfway going to Buenos Aires. So still Corrientes province. And everything that spawns up there in the Upper Paraná gets flooded into these floodplains on the Isoro wetlands, and that makes this wetland to be a nursery of Dorado, right? I mean, like, think about that a Dorado, a large adult female Dorado, the really large Dorados that we see, those that are described 40 pounders, they're all female, right?
Oh, they are.
Males will only reach 20 pounds at most, right?
Wow.
I mean, but the really big ones will be females. A big female, it can produce in a successful spawning season, one singular fish, it will produce another 2,000 fish that complete the cycle to be spawning to become an adult, right? So it's a super prolific spawning process, but very, very interesting and unique, right? It really happens in the middle of the river, and it really, these females are coming out of the water like whales, kind of half body, and the males are rubbing their belly while they're coming out of the water, and they release the eggs, and they get inseminated there in the middle of the river, really. So by the time they start hatching these inseminated eggs, they need to be in floodplains, because when the fish hatch, it has to have a protected environment. So the Dorado spawning, it is very, very rich and productive, but only when the flood level river conditions are happening, right?
Gotcha.
So yeah, sometimes there is 4 or 5 years that there is not going on a spawning season. And then when a spawning season comes, this nursery, this flooding, like the Isoro wetlands is one of the most significant ones in the middle Paraná, get like covered with Dorados, right? I mean, so I took all the explanation to answer your question of where I go if I want to get a easy Dorado. Their numbers are so good, and these fish will stay there for a couple of initial years, and they will get up to 6-7 pounds, right? I mean, but we'll get numbers of them. Like, we're fishing right now in winter. That's a fishery that really fish well because of the nature of being a nursery year round, and we're getting 15, 20 fish a day, right? I mean, like, that's where you get the numbers, right?
Yeah, 15, 20 fish. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's still a small environment, intimate, inside these wetlands with these little, there are shallow lagoons where we push ball, but then there are small little rivers that connect one lagoon to the other.
Yeah.
So it's an intimate environment, very easy for somebody that is even new into fly fishing, not just into Golden Dorado. Somebody that is new into fly fishing, it can really get successful catching a Dorado here, right?
Every angler knows the importance of impeccable gear. Jackson Hole Fly Company's fly rod combo kits are a culmination of passion, persistence, and craftsmanship. Handpicked and curated with care, each kit is designed to provide an unparalleled fly fishing experience. From the novice setting their eyes on the water for the first time with our beginner-friendly Crystal Creek combo to the all-inclusive Flat Creek kit designed for seasoned pros. Adventures, the lightweight Fall Creek combo ensures you carry your passion on every backpacking journey. Streamer enthusiasts, let the White River kit capture your imagination. Precision and accuracy are non-negotiable for you. The Missouri River combo won't disappoint. Heed the call of the salmon with the Kenai River combo, or explore vast salts with the Tarpon Alley kit. And for those who find joy in every facet of sports, there's always a kit tailored to your unique fishing style. Discover your perfect ensemble at jacksonholeflycompany.com. What is the upper part when you talk about where you have a chance at a 40 or 50 pounder? How many shots are you getting there? What's a trip look like there?
Well, it's very hard to predict, right? I mean, like, because the nature of when the dorado feed on big fish, of the big prey of the sabalo, it really happens when all the conditions are together. So they eat in certain windows.
Yeah.
So
I always go back to the muskie a little bit, right? Because, as we prepare, right, it's like you might not actually touch a fish the entire trip. It's possible.
Compared to muskie, I think it's a little more friendly.
Yeah.
And there are other sizes of dorados. There are mid-sized dorados, and we have the paku and the piapita. I like to say that almost everybody that does 3 days of fishing on the Upper Parana, he has an attack of a fish that.
And so could you mix this up if we were doing something where it was, say, a week or 10 days? Could you hit that upper section and then maybe for 3 days and then go hit that other lower section where you maybe get more opportunities in the same trip?
Yeah, well, exactly. I haven't talked specifically about the trip. I was focused on the fisheries itself. But our nature of the trip, the way that we have this program aligned, because of how changeable the systems are and how diverse are. We have 3 lodges, but the program, it's a week program where you fish half of the stay in one lodge and half of the stay in the other. So between the 3 lodges, when you book the trip, we talk about your preference, your style, and we booked you for 2 lodges. So it's a 7-night trip that you fish 3 days in a location and 3 days on another location.
Yeah, that's perfect. So you got it situated. So somebody could start out in, say, the place to try to get that giant fish, and if you don't get it, you can move down to this other area and probably have a better chance to at least catch a Golden Dorado.
Yeah, exactly. Well, a lot of times we said the Ibera Wetlands at Chetu Lodge, where is the nursery of Dorado, is where somebody's new for Dorado. We try to start
start there, right? Start with the smaller stuff first.
You get tuned with the strip setting, the way the Dorado eat, and then once you feel comfortable with the species and you start understanding how the game is, you go to have your shot for the big one. The truth is that as well as here in the Isoro and as in the Ibera Wetlands in the national park area, you have your chance for getting into a 20 or 30 pound Dorado as well, right? I mean, like, there are big Dorados in all the 3 locations that we have. Here in the nursery area in the Isoro Wetlands, the lodge is sitting right on the water, right? I mean, so you walk out of your room 20 yards and you're in the boat.
Oh, wow. You're right on the water.
Yeah. But if you ride 25, and that's inside the wetlands, right? Where all these small environments. But if you ride 25, 30 minutes going west, you will reach the main Paraná, right? So in that same lodge, you could be targeting in the main Paraná bigger fish and having a chance to get into a 20-pound fish, right? And inside the national park in the Ibera Wetlands, there are fish we have land fish as big as 30 pounds, right? I mean, so the Upper Parana is where the one that, really want to target specifically the big fish, but all the other locations will give you a chance to.
Yeah, more. Well, this is great. And what does it look like? Like, what are typically, if you're heading down there, are most people staying down there for, a week, 10 days, 2 weeks? What does that look like?
Well, that's all over the map. We say that, if you want to come a fishing trip to Argentina and you're traveling to Argentina for the fishing trip, you want to take at least a week. And that's why all our programs are prepared from Saturday to Saturday. Then you can have an extension or do something additional to that. But I will say, I'll suggest that you're going to come all the way to Argentina and have a long overnight flight. You want to at least spend a week.
Yeah, you want to spend a week.
Yeah, you could do it shorter, but that will be my suggestion. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, you fly down there, like you said, maybe on a Friday, get into Buenos Aires, hang out Friday, and then the next day, Saturday, would you be flying out to one of these lodges?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, as I was describing you in Patagonia, we used commercial flights and with Aerolíneas Argentinas to go into a regular airport near the lodge. For the Dorado trip itself, we ran the program started from Buenos Aires. We go to a private flight terminal that is a different airport with few people that only runs private flights, and we have a charter that takes you from Buenos Aires, a 2.5 hour flight on a caravan executive that takes 8 people. I mean, and you land right in an airstrip near the lodge, right? I mean, the way that trip flows is very easy. It just flows very nice. Then actually, you fish 3 days. You know, you'll get there in Saturday. You'll fish Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday morning you will get into another smaller plane and a smaller Cessna that will take you from one of the lodges to the second lodge. So there's a second flight, and then there is a third flight, the bigger plane, the caravan that takes the people from Buenos Aires. And the second Saturday at the end of the trip brings the new group coming in and takes the group that is finishing the trip back to Buenos Aires. It's a very easy trip that goes very nice with these flights.
And out of those times, we mentioned November through May, is it all, could you pick November any month in there and just be good, or is there a reason to pick another month if you wanted to? Yeah, I don't know. How would you decide?
Well, November through May is for the trout season. For Golden Dorado, we focus on shoulder in spring and fall. So it'll be like September, October, November, and then from mid-February going all the way through early May.
Okay, mid-Feb to May.
The reason is people will say, I want to escape from winter. I'm going to go out on January and February. And typically, a lot of people want to target Golden Dorado in those months because many of them are in a trout fishing in Patagonia. So I want to tag along a Dorado fishing trip. The truth is, you're going to make your focus of the trip the Golden Dorado as a species that you choose to come to Argentina for.
Yep.
The shoulder season, it will provide you a way more enjoyable environment, right? In January, in some of these environments, it could be 100 degrees and very high humidity. So it'll be like fishing Florida Keys in Key West in July, right?
Yeah.
That's how the environment looks like. So we reserve typically January and February for people that want to do a stint and doing a short stay for Dorado after a trout trip or because they were touring Argentina, and we'll do a Chetu and Ibera Wetland short part of a trip, like a 4 night and 3 days of fishing, because that's the friendliest of the environments to get a first experience with the Dorado, and because of the proximity of the water that you get there, you can break and fish in the morning and in the evening and be away from the heat.
Gotcha. The heat is something. So September through November versus, say, March through May, what is the difference between those two periods?
Well, they're pretty much equal similarity. If you're looking for the really big fish on the Upper Parana, our spring, like our October, November, it is spawning season for the big Golden Dorados. So that makes it like even a little sweeter time of the year for that. But really, I'll say my favorite over all times are March and April. The weather is so nice, right? I mean, like it's nice and warm. You enjoy the warmth, but it drops temperature at night.
Oh, right.
So it's such an overall enjoyable condition.
That is nice. All right. So I think we're narrowing it down as we're building this trip. So March. So maybe we look at a March, period. And then, like you said, you guys have, if somebody was putting together a trip, say in 2025, would you guys have availability for people in that, or do you have to look out a little bit further?
If it's a couple guys, we always are able to find a hole here and there. Typically, we say people, like, you want to plan such a long international trip with at least a year of anticipation to find your dates of choice. Yeah.
That's and a year goes by so fast. Yeah, so right now as we're speaking, it's kind of July, August. We'd probably be thinking, probably be hitting 2025, probably that fall, maybe October or November would be the better thing to do, and then or maybe shoot for 26th of March, something like that. If you had a group, like say you're going down with a hosted program with a group of people, then that would be it.
Yeah, correct. Exactly. If somebody's looking now to get into March 25th, we'll find the spot, but my suggestion to get everything tuned and familiar, is go as you said.
This is great. I think we were starting this off at the start. I was thinking about, we talked Patagonia, which would be amazing too, but I feel like, the Golden Dorado is such a, a unique species that there's not many places in the world you can catch one. But talk about the lodges just a little bit before we head out of here in a bit. What does that experience look like? Are these lodges that are kind of small cabins? Maybe describe the experience of what the lodge is.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Well, they're all unique properties or different layouts on their own. Like I will start like the Upper Parana where the big Dorados are, Itati Lodge. It is also like 30 yards the rooms from the lodge. It has 6 rooms. We have a maximum of 10 anglers at a time for that specific lodge. And we are distinguished in all these lodges by a great gastronomy and the food. We make the food to be part of experience.
Yeah, so the food is you're getting food from our typical Argentine food. You're
Yeah, exactly.
experiencing the culture, like you said.
Yeah, exactly. We make sure the food it is in Argentina was very serious about eating. We have a very big influence, Italian and Spanish influence in our gastronomy,
Wow.
plus the beef that we're famous for, right? I mean, so the gastronomy and plus the wines are really something to enjoy and that our guests loved, and one of the reasons they returned, right? I mean, like.
Exactly.
We have open bars and we run cocktails after fishing in day, so it's really cool. So Itati Lodge, very easy to get to the water. You're fishing right 5 minutes out of the dock. You're right in front of the lodge. You have good fishing.
Yeah.
Similar, and there's 6 rooms, and then a big clubhouse where everybody gets together for dinners and breakfast. So very, very easy to lodge to fish out of it. You don't drive anywhere. You just walk to your boat and you're fishing.
Yeah.
Isoro Wetlands, Chetu Lodge is the same, similar layout, right? I mean, we have 6 rooms, but also here we ran a maximum of 8 anglers at a time,
Mm-hmm.
and very easy, right? I mean, 20 yards and you are into the boat to get to fish. You sometimes fish right off the dock, and you are able to catch a golden dorado depending the height of the level of the water, right? But yeah, it's a very nice charm log cabin with a big common area where we get all together. Rooms are very spacious, so nice layout. Then the Ibera Wetlands with the national park,
Yep.
they're a little bit different. We have a beautiful lodge, La Londra, probably one of the most charm, unique lodges on the whole set fly fishing
Hmm.
venues. But the lodge is 20 minutes from the water, and so we drive 20 minutes to get to the dock and get inside the wetlands, inside the national park. And because of that, we have 3 different camps. One of them is there are cabins with nice formal beds. The other one is stable camps with nice cots
Hmm.
and mattress, where you can get deep immersion in the nature in the middle of the
Oh, cool.
wilderness.
That would be awesome.
If you fish in the Ibera Wetlands, you will do one night at the lodge coming in, getting ready to get in, and then you do 2 nights in 2 different of the inside camps with the chef preparing a meal, same great gastronomy, a good wine, cocktail. So really cool experience, but in the middle of the wilderness, unique, very, very unique, right? I mean,
Yeah.
and so
Yeah, that's it. So you got everything. And what does it look like when you're out there fishing? Are you seeing other fish anglers out there fishing other boats? Are there other operations?
in the 2 of the wetlands, you virtually in the Ibera you will see like nobody, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like some locals with some cattle in the first part of the navigations out of the dock, but then as you get deeper, there is no even other human presence or other boats or anything.
Oh, wow.
The second is super pristine, super wild and unspoiled, right? The
Mm-hmm.
second wetland system in Isoro, it is right off a village where there are a lot of people that the gauchos that they raise cattle.
Hmm.
So you'll see wooden canoes that the locals are going to the islands to take care of cattle, but most likely 95% you won't see another angler in the entire stay there fishing there. So it's very few people around because the closest 2 towns are like an hour and 40 minutes north or south or upstream and downstream from the location. So very insulated. And then in the Upper Parana, in the Itati Lodge, where you target the large ones, it is a major riverboat traffic on the Parana. So you will see big ships. We're 15 minutes from a town. So it's a lot more boats and fishing, people fishing, a lot of people that might be fishing for the bogas or deep fishing with bait. They're not on the fisheries that we're doing, right? For Golden Dorado, there's not many other people doing Golden Dorado fishing while we're there, but it's a lot more people around when you're fishing on the Upper Parana.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, and let's take it out of here with our, this is our kind of 3 tips segment, and today this one's presented by Angler's Coffee. This is our favorite coffee that we drink. They do a lot for conservation. Joe has some amazing coffee, and so we're going to give a shout out to Angler's Coffee. So starting this 3 tips, I want to talk about some tips on, Golden Dorado, but talk about that in the morning. What are you drinking there? Are you a coffee drinker, tea drinker? What's your morning look like?
Well, the national drink in Argentina is an infusion called mate.
Oh, mate. Yeah, mate is great.
Yeah. So that's personally what we drink.
There you go.
Yeah, our guests typically they do coffee, but some they're curious and they see the guys drinking mate and they go for it and try it.
Yeah. Well, the reason mate is great because coffee, it's got a lot of caffeine, right? And mate's a little bit more of a not quite as much of a jolt, right? It's more smooth over a longer period. Is that kind of how it works?
Sure. Yeah, you could drink all morning nonstop mate, and you won't be creating, like you will do it if you drink nonstop all morning coffee.
You'll be jacked up. Yep.
Yeah, mate still has matein that is the equivalent to caffeine, so it really wakes you up and gets you going. But it has a lot of healthy antioxidant properties. It's good for you, right? I mean, you could drink all morning mate, as you'll see the guys and we all Argentinians do.
They all drink mate, love it. So that's another bonus there. So let's talk tips on Golden Dorado. We were talking about that. So if we have this trip set up, we're getting out there. Let's just say we're on the water. What are a few things you're telling somebody to hook up into a Golden Dorado? Any tips you would have?
Yeah, well, first I will say I'll tell people get one of the big flies for Dorado and practice a little bit of casting, not because of it's super technical, but because you get familiar how is casting, 8-inch type of fly. I mean, a lot of air resistance. Their flights are not heavy or weighted; they're light, but just a lot of air resistance. So the whole motion of casting just slow down, right? The air resistance makes you gotta wait for your line a lot more of what you do. No matter if you're double hauling and speeding up, it has a different feeling on the casting, right?
Yeah, right. You're opening your loop, right? You're casting with a bigger loop. You got to learn to. It's not your normal cast like you're fishing a dry fly or a small little trout fly.
Yeah, exactly. The loop is a little bigger. You can really cast a decent, good, nice looking loop, but the whole casting stroke is just in a slower motion, right? I mean, and a lot of accompanying the rod with your arm, waiting and then coming forward. So slower transitions, I would say.
Yep, that's it. Okay.
It's important saying that, I wanted to clarify, it's not that you need to be a master caster we get people that is new into fly fishing and they successful on the Dorado experience, right? But it is good to have the feel how casting a big fly, because people might fly fish for 20 years but never cast a fly this big, or never cast a fly rod that is a 8 or weight that is a bigger fly rod. If you never musky fish, it's a good feel to cast a big fly. The flies are lighter than the big musky flies, right? I mean, for Golden Dorado.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, so you're using heavier stuff, and we talked about, we've talked casting. We had Paul Arden from Sexy Loops on recently, and he was talking about some of the, the practicing. And we've heard that a lot, just even if you practice 15 minutes a day, or, just getting out there, in your yard doing it, that's pretty much what any, if you're going to get good at something, right, you have to practice. So I think that's a good tip. So you got to get out there and practice with the bigger flies and 8 weight. And is that the typical rod, 8 or 9 weight, 9 foot, 8 weight?
8 weight is the rod to go, right? I mean, a lot of people say, wow, but you might catch a 30, 40 pounder and you're catching that big fly. I want to bring my 10 weight. We tell people, no, let's focus better, have 2 8 weights, have 2 different style of rods if you want to, but we do not go into a heavier rod because the nature that we prospect structure, because how the Dorado hide to attack the ambush. So you need to be prospecting. You need to cast a lot it is not like you're tarpon fishing with a 12 weight, but you cast 30 casts a day, right? I mean, here you'll cast several hundred casts a day, right? I mean, so if you're bigger than an 8 weight, your shoulder will fall off, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's good. So keep the 8 weight a little bit smaller, so you're not having to cast a super heavy rod. And so we got one tip. Give us a couple more tips on this. If somebody wants to get a shot at maybe one of these big Dorados, what else would you be telling them?
Well, then if you want to go into a big Dorado, it is good that you get a feel for catching a smaller one before, right? I mean, and come back to what I said before, because of the nature, it is a strip set, but it's so radical how they quick and unexpected the way they attack.
Well, talk about that a little bit. How does that work? If you see, maybe describe that before the hookup. So you're out there, you're trying to target these fish. Maybe they're not cracking on the surface, but are you making a cast to a log that you think has a fish and then stripping? Describe that a little bit.
Yeah, it is. It is a mild stripping. Sometimes you let it swing a little bit and drift, and along on a slow strip. You do like little mends, but more to give action to the side, like little flips of the rod tip that we like to do between the strips. And so you want to have the fly going slowly with a lot of life, but not just a fast stripping that you might do for trout, like if you are banging the banks of a trout stream, right? I mean, you put life as soon as the fly gets in the water, and so you strip and you mend and you give action, but it is not a super aggressive fast stripping. Be ready and be focused on every line grab that you're gonna go for and make a strip, because all of a sudden they're gonna rip the line out of your hand and you lose a strike, right? I mean, so it's
Right.
more than anything, it's a focus game. You really gotta be on. If you're that type of angler that enjoying having a beer in your hand, sitting on the boat, and just watching the scenery and waiting for your fish type of thing, this is not the game, right? I mean,
No.
this is you gotta be really on what you're doing, right?
Yeah, gotcha. That's it. Okay. And then once they hook up, what's that like? How do you make sure not to lose them? Do you lose a lot of fish, or what's your tip there to make sure you land a fish?
Well, yeah, they're not easy. I mean, if you're in the main river, your fishing structure, whatever it's rocks or logs, you really gotta hang on them and shift them away from the structure. So that very early part of the fight, it is when you're hooking into a 25, 30 pound fish, it is a lot of risk. We use really heavy lines. We use 40-pound wire tippet at the end of the leader because they cut it. So we use heavy stuff, but still, we see fly lines, new fly lines, and really good high quality fly lines explode into the power you gotta make it to move it out of the structure, right?
Yeah.
And then they shamp. They typically, as soon as you hook them and you make the first push, they're gonna be on the out of the water, right? When
Yeah.
they shamp, if you are in a short game, you gotta bow as you'll do with a big tarpon champing in front of the boat, right? I mean, so
Yeah.
because otherwise, it's a very bony, hard head, so they're hard to hook. That's why it's a strip set. But also, when you're fighting short and you're champing, you gotta be polite. You gotta have enough tension, but you don't want to have too much tension to pull the hook out of that mouth. So yeah, it is not a easy species to land, right?
No, that's it. Awesome. Well, good. This has been great. Gustavo, one other question I was just curious about on the set fly fishing. I'll talk to somebody who doesn't know much about fly fishing or is new to it, and they'll say wet fly swing, and they're kind of curious. They don't know what that means, right? But what is set on the set fly fishing? What does that mean?
Well, that's a good question. We get asked a lot. It really, it's when we come up, we fusion between our trout operation and the Dorado. We have two different names. We're the same company, but over the pandemic lockdown, we wanted us to be creative, to have a proper, unique name that was easy for the word of mouth to our guests and friends to spread the voice. So we come up with after some brainstorming process, that something that stick easy and something that actually our guides are telling our guests like multiple times a day. Set, set, set. And
Yeah. Oh, set. Right. Yeah.
So we said, why not set fly fishing? And it's something that stands alone, is unique on the industry, and it goes along for any fishery that we touch in Argentina, not tagged to a species or to a region.
Yeah, it's everything, right? That makes sense. Yeah, so it is the set. Yeah, it's the hook set, right? It's the set,
Yeah.
which is a common thing. So that's really, that's perfect. I mean, actually, it's easy to remember. It's something you guys say a lot. So you're saying that a lot on the boat. You're hearing the guys say set when you're out there for Golden Dorado.
Yes, and as for trout too. Yeah.
Yeah, and trout, right? Yeah, it's trout. Yeah, that's it. Cool. All right, Gustavo. Well, anything else we want to leave people with about the experience? I mean, I think you've painted the picture today. It sounds amazing. The area, the culture, everything. Anything else you want to leave anybody with as we head out of here?
Well, if we can stick here talking for hours, right?
Yeah,
I mean, like
we could.
Hard for you to make me stop talking about fishing, but we'll need to get together again to talk about trout.
Yeah.
I like to share with you. Sometimes we've been pulling for now a year a project that is coming together for doing a big conservation Golden Dorado research.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. We have been able to get a collaboration between the local Northeast University in Corrientes, and we brought to the table to Andy Danielchuk in the University of Massachusetts, and he brought the Carleton University in Canada. So we're doing a collaboration project that we're just starting. So we're very excited about it. But it's a whole episode on itself.
Yeah, this is great. No, I love it. I think conservation is always, we love talking about conservation, and it's important, obviously, for everything, we're doing. So good. Well, Gustavo will definitely be in touch, and I'll send everybody out to setflyfishing.com if they have questions. And yeah, I'm excited to keep in touch. Thanks for all your time today, and looking forward to hearing more about Argentina.
No, thank you, Dave, for your time and your questions. It was great getting together, and thank for all the audience to listen on our fishing talk. And we're waiting for you here in Argentina anytime. Give us a call.
All right. Today, your call to action is to check in with Gustavo and let him know you're interested, and let him know you heard about this on the podcast. Pick his brain on some ideas. We are likely going to be trying to put together a trip down in this area as well in the future, so stay tuned for that. Argentina, I think it's likely on your bucket list. And if you're listening now to the very end, I'm sure you're excited about what we talked about today, and getting out there to chase some Golden Dorado and trout. All right, heads up. We have a couple of trips going on. The Alaska trip, if you're interested, you can check in Alaska. We have a spot available for Alaska. You can check in with me, Dave, at wetflyswing.com. And I'll let you know if what you need to do to secure that spot. And we're going to be heading up with Fishhound Expeditions to Alaska. We're doing a road system trip, and I'm going to be up there. We're going to be chasing all the normal species, having a chance at some giant rainbows. So that's Alaska, Fishhound. We're going to be doing it. Stay tuned. Send me an email. All right, next episode, we got Tom Bai is back on the podcast, the Drake Magazine. Tom was on quite a while back, and in this one, we're going to get caught up with the Drake, how they've actually managed to expand their empire, even given all the changes in print and all that. Drake is still kicking butt. We're going to talk about that. We're going to get some stories. One of the stories we're going to talk about is this synthetic marijuana grow operation story that Tom posted in the Drake, and how that's connected to fly fishing and lawsuits and jail and everything else. Great story. Interesting one next week. So stay tuned Monday for that. And I'm going to get out of here. As always, I'm getting on the road right now in the next 30 minutes. So I'm excited to always, I love getting in the truck and traveling, throwing in a podcast in the earbuds and doing that. So if you have a podcast right now you're listening to that you would like me to know about, send me an email, dave@wetflyswing.com. Put podcast in the subject line, and just let me know what you're listening to right now. I'd love to find a new podcast, and I'm always interested in that. All right, hope you have a great morning, a great afternoon, or a great evening, wherever you are in the country, and I look forward to catching you on that next episode. Talk to you then.